just to be honest with oneself. Um, and this started for me about 2 years ago, uh, December 2024. I had a kundalini awakening. Um, and up until this point in my life, I have never felt anything that could top that, um, not even having children. So I decided to change my life or to become the real version of me because um, I have been living a lie up until that point. And when I say a lie, it's being a people pleaser, being a comfort seeker due to my upbringing. Now, my upbringing was something that I learned, that I created for myself, and I planned for myself, pre planned for myself prior to coming into Earth. And after my Kundalini awakening, I had a series of out of body experiences where I was taken to show my past lives, um, well, the past life that's affecting this current life. Um, I've gone back to see my birth, um, and also key things that affected my story up until now. Um, I went back and I saw how I planned every single detail, step by step, that will lead me to ultimately waking up in this lifetime. Um, and for that, when I finally woke up, I will share the story in detail today. Um, but just to give you a quick rundown, every single thing, and this is for all of us really, everyone on earth plan their life before coming in here. You literally plan your life. Like you go around, let's say, a table, and you have a board of advisors and guides. Um, and this is you in your higher self form. And you plan how you're going to navigate this experience. You set up certain things in for yourself. For example, your parents. And if you're on this channel watching this, I'm pretty sure you're gonna know something about this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. But you plan your parents. You plan what experiences you wanted for the purpose of your soul's evolution. And I chose a very difficult lifetime, um, uh, of a series of severely traumatic events starting up pretty much at birth. Um, I almost got suffocated at birth. And my mother I think my mother had 13 stitches having me. Um, and almost immediately after going home, the challenges started, which I will share over the course of time on this channel. But today I'm gonna share key things that will probably help you navigate your chapter here. Um, on this channel, I'm gonna teach about forgiveness, uh, self-acceptance, which is the number one thing. So self-acceptance and forgiveness, um, and overall how to fully juice this experience and milk it for everything and all of the pleasures and everything that you can have here. But first, you have to go through your courses. And for me, coming in, I and these are things that I'm recently learning from traveling out of body, and I think at this point I could say I'm a pretty good out of body traveler. Although I don't want to put a label on it. It does sound cool though, for my ego's sake, because I don't have anything against the ego. It's just that I don't want the ego to lead my life. But I enjoy the benefits of the ego. I like nice clothes. I like to smell good, so I take showers. Those are all for ego. but ego is pretty much on a spectrum. So I like to give it its attention when it's time. For example, I like this thing here. It looks pretty cool, and it's for my ego. This cool ass copper cup right here. It's my ego. It's for the body as well, right? Because I truly believe in keeping copper close to your body. I have a couple of copper rings that I wear also, and I wear a lot of crystals and stuff. This thing here is pretty much for my ego as well. But I burn sage in it, and I usually light a little stick of sage before I start anything. When I'm gonna speak, I like to clear the air, clear the energies, and get myself ready. But that's as far as having it on camera, that's for the ego. But anyway, but in all seriousness, this is and there you go. That was a part of what the Soul's Advocate is. I will try my very best to speak the truth all the time, because the truth is we're all liars, and I am a recovering liar, and I guess I'm just brave enough to say that. And the purpose of this channel is to teach you and help you to become a full version of yourself by first going to rehab of the ego, and becoming a recovering liar also. So now to my kundalini experience. I was meditating this day, December 6th, 2024, and before I went into the meditation, well, quick backstory again. Before getting up to the meditation day, at this point, I was at a very low place in my life, and I was drinking a lot. I was heartbroken. I had just gone through a very traumatic thing. One of the very last excruciating thing that I've been through. On top of everything I've been through my whole life, it's like one trauma after the other, and they get more and more severe, as per my soul's commands or demands, or what it wants for itself, right? But this was the top. This was the the one of the worst ones, and I was pretty much at my wit's end. I was just tired. I was just done, and not done in the way of, let's say, ending my human experience deliberately, but I was at such a low point that if something would have happened, I wouldn't try to stop it, but I wouldn't be the one to do it. That's how low it was. It got, and I was holding on by a thread, and that thread was my children, and just how bad I would feel if I had to leave my kids to be raised without a father. And this is what I was thinking at the time, because now, from all my out-of-body experiences and going back to the other side and learning from my higher self, all the stuff that I've learned about how no one really dies, and how your children, you won't even have to miss your children because no one really dies, and it's like a blip. It's like a some people describe it as a quick store run, like you run to the store and back. That's how quick it is, because time is non-existent on the other side, so you don't even feel it. So by the time you come here for 40, 50, 60, 70 years and go back to the other side, before you know it, your kids will be back there, and their higher selves are back there and here, because no one really stays in their body at night, if you know. So but I was with the level of ignorance that I was at the time. I didn't know all of these things, and I just wanted a break. And I think that has a lot. I think it was time for my awakening, and I was going through what they call the dark night of the soul, and I didn't know it at that point. And right now I'm getting chills up my right arm, which is usually a gentle touch from my guides. Um, when I'm speaking, when I need support, or when I'm saying the right thing, when I'm on track, I usually get different nudges from my higher self and from my guides. And there's been so many gifts that's been unlocked or handed to me after having my kundalini experience. For example, I am now clear sentient. I was always very sensitive in that way spiritually, but now I can say I'm clear sentient. I can feel whenever there's truth in anything. If I'm having a meditation and I go into a very relaxed state, I could feel movements in my body. I could feel the energies going through my fingers, and right now I constantly feel like a spiral movement in both my palms constantly. And throughout the day, it's kind of like resting, but you can still feel it on a light level. But if I go into, if for example, if I take 5 deep breaths right now, I'll feel it. And the deeper the breaths, the more intense it comes. My third eye, I can feel it when I wink these 2 eyes. I can feel this one winking also, and it's just a part of my life now, just like breathing. And this is just something that I just never shared with anyone, or I only shared with people who could probably understand. Maybe I do have a handful of people who do understand, who also has those gifts. But this channel is for that, to share my story, and that means whether or not anyone is watching or agreeing or validating, it doesn't matter. I'm telling my story. This is what it is. I have a very hard time dealing with just stagnancy, and just not knowing what my next move is going to be. So at this point in my life, I just couldn't see a way out. I just couldn't see what was going to be next. I was living what I think was just a mundane life. I knew what I was making. I spend the check before I saw it, because the stuff was just piling up, and it was just coming from a lifetime of figuring out stuff on your own and having to be the savior my entire life. Not that I needed to be, but because that's what I was trained to do and be. So I never felt safe around anyone. I never felt safe in my own body. And like I said, this was a plan from the other side, but just to give you the story. So all those things coming up to the end, on December 6, 2024, I was lying in bed, and I was meditating. At this point, I was meditating every day. I mean, even when I was drinking and everything else, I never left that meditation. That was my only go-to, because I travel out of body a lot, like every night. And that's another thing. I'm one of the people who, I can't speak for anyone else. Everybody has their own experience. But for me, I can leave my body whenever I want. It was always, it came easy to me over the years, because it would happen involuntarily as a child. And then it was just a thing that I would do. And my initial stages was, let's say from 5 to 14, 13, 14, I would just, when I'm in a very relaxed state, which was always, because I was always tired and overworked, when I lie down in bed, I would just lie my head back, all the way back, and roll my eyes in the back of my head, and within minutes, I would just fall under. And it wasn't a physical fall. It was just more like so for any out-of-body traveler, you guys could understand this, but I want to explain this in a way where everybody could understand it. Imagine when you're very sleepy, right? We've all been sleepy. Imagine being very sleepy to the point where you're falling apart like this. Imagine feeling like that, but you have to be awake enough to stay awake and do something. So that means you want to sleep, you feel all the sensation of sleeping, but you're not allowed to sleep. That's the state. It's like a sweet spot. It's a very short little window, and you live there. And that means if you lie down at any point, it doesn't matter where you lie down. You can lie down in the bathroom with wet floors. Uh, uh, that's how tired you have to be, and you'll just fall. Um, and so when I would get to that stage at night, it'll be the best time to travel. And I think I did it so much because it felt so fun, and it was my one thing that I had. That was my therapy. Retrospectively speaking, that was my therapy. That's the one thing that I had control over. I could do that whenever I want. I know how to do it. It's fun. I'm my own king here, and I would fly around. And I remember I would just speed down wherever I was, and I didn't know at the time to look around to see if I was in a real place or whatever. I just knew that this was a fun thing to do. So I wasn't even thinking about if I'm flying around my neighborhood. I didn't think of any of that. I just knew that I was in a very real dream where I can fly when I want to, and I could do whatever I want, and I could stop when I want, and I could turn back, and I could do this, and I could, fall all the way down, and I could go all the way up, and I could go as high as I want. If I want to go up, it was just fun. Um, and so, coming back to the day of the kundalini, I was having a meditation this day, and I said, and at this point I'm very advanced with meditation. So I discovered Darius J. Wright this summer, 2024, around this summertime, about the springtime. I discovered Darius J. Wright, and then I discovered Mariko Frederick, which was a very, very important person also. So Darius J. Wright and Mariko Frederick are the two people who pretty much induce my Kundalini awakening. One, because Darius showed me that this was something that you could do at will. And I was doing out of body before, but my out of body that I was doing, I would just come out and fly around. I wouldn't do much. I wouldn't do anything really. I would just fly around and just have fun. And that was the astral projection part. And then the coming out part, the OBE part, started around 2017, where I would physically come out of my body and feel my legs popping out, and but I didn't know that you could actually control it and go and visit places and see things and go to different dimensions. That I didn't know. That I learned from Darius. As far as seeing different dimensions and going back to your life review and seeing your guides and stuff like that, those are just things that I thought had happened with near-death experiencers, people who've had tragic accidents and come back to tell about it. I didn't know that you could actually drive it by holding the wheel and leaving the body and doing it that way. I just thought I did very deep meditations and to the hypnosis level, and then popping out that way. And I also thought I was alone. Remember that. I also thought I was alone doing this. This is my little secret. And then Darius J. Wright came along, and I felt seen. I felt that this person was, wow, this is the rest of my life now, because this guy's doing this. And he was showing the pictures of on the other side, and immediately I went into gear to find out things and go deeper and really ask questions, and instead of just flying around and using it for therapy. And from that time, from this year 2024 up until now, I must have had at least, and I'm being generous when I say this, I've had to have at least 100 out-of-body experiences since that time. At least that much, because there was so many. Because I would get out every night, but the ones that are worth mentioning is what I'm counting. So it's a lot more than that. But so I'm lying down, and before I went into the meditation, I said, "Show me my higher self." I guess I was ready, because the inspiration to say that had to come from my soul, my higher self. Or maybe the physical man was just so beat up that all he wanted was God, and this is what God does, which is a higher self, which is God, right? And God will put you through it so you can turn around and come back to self when it's time. And at this point, I was ready, and I uttered the words, show me my higher self. And I asked to show me my higher self, and I went into meditation. And this day when I was in the meditation, I was listening to a tape from Mariko Frederick. And with Mariko Frederick tapes, she has a light language that she uses, a light language frequency, and for her light language always resonate with me on a deeper level. I've never felt any other light language that is as strong as hers, except for mine. Ever since I got mine unlocked, mine is more physical. Mine is physical, 100% physical. And almost every month or so, I get new things that pops in, new gifts that gets handed to me. I feel them when they pop in. But my light language is movements, right? So I move my entire body. And then, my third eye will get tightened. The tension will get tightened from here to the back of my body, and I'll feel it. I use it to heal myself, heal my children, heal, just heal people when I'm on the train. I'll just do stuff, without them knowing. I'll just help and send love and send that energy. So now, no more rambling, although all this stuff is important, but this is the introduction to my full story, so I have to give you everything. And remember, this is called a soul's advocate, so you have to say everything inside, okay? So I'm in the meditation, and I started to feel myself moving. Like I felt like I was moving on the bed, but it was involuntary. But it was fierce. It was pleasurable. It was very pleasant. It was a very pleasant feeling, kind of like an orgasm, but in your entire body. You feel your face get tightened, your body, everything gets and you feel it all over. But my entire body was moving, and by the time I got to the center of my heart here, around my heart chakra. And of course, this I found out afterwards. I realized it was a kundalini experience when it got to my throat. And I remember being so happy in the moment. But it just happened. Your throat chakra, your root chakra start, and then it comes up, and then you feel the movements. And then for me, by the time I got to my throat, I realized what was happening, because I remember I just went into a deep meditation. My meditations are usually very profound, very deep, very, very deep, to the point where sometimes you wake up in an OBE state, because that's how I usually get out in an OBE state. I usually, most of the OBEs I had, I go into a short, quick nap for like 3 minutes, and then you come out that way. And so as I was coming back to be more conscious, I woke up in the kundalini, and then I remember feeling so loved, and I remember just submitting. I remember the moment I submitted to it, and I just let the power take me over. I felt so safe. I felt loved, because in this moment, it's like in the state that I was at the time, I feel that the story of Jesus Christ, which is the story of us, the story of mankind, flesh. When he was going through the dark night of the soul, he cried out to God, and he said, why art thou forsaken me? That's how I felt. I felt like I didn't know where I was going. I felt like God left me. And at this point, I knew that, I was a God, but, like the God, like God consciousness, I just felt left out. I felt alone. And I remember when I felt hug. I remember when it got to my throat chakra, I felt the need to just let go and just submit. I relaxed and I let it go. And I was like, wow, this is happening for me. And in this moment, it felt that I just felt so good knowing that, wow, I haven't been forgotten, because the kundalini doesn't come up because you ask it to come up. It comes up when it's time, and I just felt seen. And this is because of everything that I've placed for myself before coming in here. I put myself in a position where I didn't get love or get affection and get touched and get loved and just feel, just to feel properly seen. So to be seen by God, by spirit, to be remembered, it's like there's so many of us on earth. It's 8 billion of us, and most people are probably going to leave this life without having a kundalini, and you remembered me, and that was the martyr version of me, right? When I think I was more, I still had a lot of religious ties to me, like a lot of religious, um, what would you call that? Plugs, like little religious, you know, anchors, pinned to my body, so to speak. I did have a few of those still, but it was more so in the background now. I was like 96%, into my, if you call this a religion, what my religion is no religion. That's my religion. It's no religion. But I was 96% into that. And then that 4% was always in the background. But what if this? And how can you say that? And that's blasphemy and all that stuff. So a part of that was what I felt in this moment. Like, wow, God, you remembered me? That was my religious side asking that question. And that part I cried for because I felt seen and remembered. And I gave that part to my religious side. Because even though you believe and you know that, you are a God and you are special and you came down here on purpose, these things, but I also, never had a real physical experience or encounter with God. And then it came up. So back to me coming up now. So when I said my body was moving like this, what I learned later is that it's not that my body was moving, it was my essence, the real me. So the real me, the real essence of who you are, it's you. So you feel like you. So I explained this to a few friends, and I also explained this on the podcast that I did with The Alchemist and Bam Heck on the the OBE podcast. But I'm going to share it in more detail here. So it feels like you yourself, me, this flesh, Fabian, it felt like I was inside of my back. And that's what it is. And what the reason it feels that way is because your real you was aware of you being inside the vessel. And in this moment, my consciousness was there, and I was aware of both of us. I was aware of the body, and I still had the consciousness in the body because the brain is working and the body's alive and everything works. The subconscious is still in there. And I was aware of my real self coming up my back. So that's why it made sense. But I couldn't explain this on the podcast. So take it for what it is. It felt like I was coming out of my back, and you were aware of both of them. And there's not enough words in the English language or any language on earth that could explain that. If you're out of body traveler or you had a near-death experience or OBE of any kind, you will know what that means. Okay? So I cannot explain it here. Just take it for the best that I can do. I was inside my back, and I knew that I was inside my back. When I got up to my throat, I felt myself hugging me, but I was being led, and it was very intense. It was so tight. It's like you're talking like this. It was tight, but it was pleasant. It was a pleasant feeling. And then I came out, and then I was in my head. I was in my head, and I was aware that I was in my head. And inside my head, it was like a dark room, but it was my head. It was in my skull, my cranium. It was in my head here. And I'll explain later what that is because that's a real thing, right? So I was inside my head. And when I came out this, so I was lying back flat on the bed. And when I came out, I came out this way. And to my left was a great, I would say 25 foot, but it might have been taller. But it's a great big tall being made out of fire. And the way I describe this is that it looks like iron, when they're bending, when they're heating up iron to bend and mold and make things. That's how it looked, like the red hot fire. It looked red and hot. And the first part I saw was the abdominal area. It was the most shrine being you ever seen. Like every single muscle, every single design of the human body, like every single fiber of every muscle, you could see it in this being. And it was the most defined 8-pack you can think of. That's the first thing I saw. And then I saw the thigh here, and it was sitting to the side like this, like a bodybuilder. And I think it was like this, you know, or it was like this. Yeah, the hands was like this. Yeah, so the hands was in like a come here position, like this. Right, leaning forward like this, but to the side, and that was me here, and I was coming around. And as I came around to look at the face, I remember having the thought, I want to see the face. And just as soon as I had that thought, another thought popped in, and this thought came in my mother's voice, and the words were, remember, no man sees the face of God and live. Do not look in the face. And being the kid that I was, the curious kid who wanted to know everything and see everything, and just nothing made sense. And for God's sake, I wanted the truth, God damn it. I wanted the truth already. Show me the damn truth. I didn't believe that. I remember denouncing the thought. I remember telling the thought to get out of here. I pretty much just ignored it. And I said, no, I'm going to look. And I came around to look at the face. Okay. I don't know if you can see, but there go the goosebumps now, right? So I came around to see the face. When I looked in the face, the eyes look like my eyes, right? But fire. All of it is yellow. I mean orange, right? Everything is orange, right? There's a little tiny little bit of black in the center of it, but the eyes look like eyes here, but it's all flamey, right? And only the eyes look like me. Down here, all the way down, look like flames, but not flames like a stove flame. It'll be like, you know, like a light shining, like the sparks that goes off the light that's shining. It's like straight lines going this way. So it's like straight lines going this way, and the entire face is like this, just fire going this way. And then, so imagine a cone, a backwards cone, shooting out the face like this, right? So it's a cone, and then inside the center of the face are the eyes. So it's like eyes, and then shooting out like this. It's just fire going this way, fire going this way, right? Straight line, straight. And I'm gonna put up a picture of it also, because I'm using AI to perfect it, and I'll show you what it looks like. And it's gonna be the cover of the book, and the book is called Time, the Soul's Advocate. So it's Time, and then the Soul's Advocate, and I'll explain that later. Time is just me doing time here. And I come down into time, and what I did to pass the time, and how I set everything up. I set everything up in a very specific way. It was 8-year periods where I had to learn certain things by the end of that 8 year. So from 1 to 8, from 8 to 16, from 16 to 24, from 24 to 32. I had all those things set up, and I went back and I learned that. And when I came back and looked at my life, that's exactly what it was. Every 8 years, something significant happened, and a big change happened. And the last one was at 32 years old, and I'm going to do a couple OBEs to figure out what else I'm missing in there, but I think I may have veered off track for a while, which can happen because we have free will here. But by the time the next 8 years supposed to pop around, if you're not on track, you're going to get flinged back into your path anyway. So whether that may be you move to Colombia because you've met friends there and you just don't want to do whatever here, at that point, something's going to happen that's going to bring your butt back here if your purpose is supposed to be here at that time. So this is just how free will works. You can do whatever you want in between those timestamps. And Darius J. Wright confirmed this also. Not even confirm it. I don't want to say it like I heard that first from my guides, because I heard it from Darius before my guides confirmed it. But yes, there's timestamps. There are certain events that's supposed to happen at a certain time. and you have the free will to veer off track and do whatever, but you're gonna do what you're supposed to do when you come here, irrespective of how it looks here now to the human self. So and I looked in the face, and when I looked in the eyes, I felt a love that no words can explain. I felt so loved, and in that moment, it took no more than maybe a millisecond for all of this information to just crammed and just sealed into my consciousness. I just knew. I just got it. I just knew. And this understanding was, among many things, but mainly, you are loved. You are not short of love. You have all of the love and then some. And you chose this for yourself. You chose to wake up at this time, and you're doing it. You're doing great. Be kind to yourself. You're doing great, and you are perfect. You are loved. There's nothing you could do wrong. That's one of the things that stood out the most to me. I felt forgiven. I felt seen. I felt like it doesn't matter what I did here. It's fine. It was an experience, and you're down here, and you're supposed to forget, because if you remembered the tests, if you remembered all the answers, or if you knew all the answers, it wouldn't be a test. Like, you wouldn't come down here to give yourself all these obstacles, if you knew all of the answers. So in that moment, I learned how to relax a little bit and give myself some credit, because you were not a sinner or a victim or a martyr of any kind, and there's no woe is me, there's none of that stuff. You are doing perfectly fine, and you're okay, and you are loved, right? So you don't need no support from anybody in the human experience. Sure, support is great, and you'll get the support you need when it's time, but it's not something that you need as this crutch because you're not whole. That's not true. And I got all of that in that moment. And then after that happened, I looked in the face and I got all of that information. And then the being didn't even turn me to face the mirror. I had a mirror in front on my bed at the time. And I remember after I saw that and I had that connection, I turned to the mirror. And in this moment, I know. In this moment, I just feel like innately I knew what to do, because this was a part of the process and I knew what to do next. And it's as if like clockwork, like it was just, this is what you do at this time. And I looked in the mirror and I saw my clothing. I had on this old, what I call biblical time garment. It was a long shawl looking kind of thing, like a long, gown. It was white and it was dirty and dingy. I had dreadlocks, short hair, about this long, but it was like dreads, right? And it was nappy. And after I told the story on the podcast a couple weeks ago, something came to me. It was a picture of, if you ever seen Power, Kendrick Lamar's character in Power with 50 Cent. That's exactly how my hair looked. And that's exactly how my face looked. I looked sweaty, I looked dirty. And what resonated with me in that moment, when I looked in the mirror, it's like I was buried for 1,000 years. And I think I said 2,000 years. After a while, I started saying 1,000 years just for conversation's sake. But I think the thought was 2,000 years. And if you know where I'm going with this, due to my research afterwards, I come to find out that that's exactly what happened. That was the crucifixion. And that's how you get out of here. That's how you escape and be done with this. Not escape meaning, because the word escape sounds like it's insinuating that one is trapped here. You're not trapped here. Unless you believe you can be trapped, right? So that was the Christ consciousness. That was the crucifixion that happened. And I came up the cross, right? The cross, the human body. I came up the cross and I pop out at the 33rd vertebrae, 33 years of Christ, and I popped out in the skull in Golgotha. The skull is called, in the Bible, it's called Golgotha or Calvary. Both those words in Greek and Latin, I think, means skull or tomb. Golgotha, Golgotha in the Bible, where Jesus was buried, or Calvary, he died in Calvary, right? That's where the Christ oil, the Christos, goes to die in the center of the brain, right? And 3 days later, it wakes up because the oil goes here and then it rests for three. It dies. It rests for 3 days. Where I'll make another video breaking down how the kundalini works and how the crystals oil get pretty much distributed from one place to another here, and then it drifts back down, and then you have a spiritual awakening. I'll explain all that stuff in a different video, which I've explained in other videos already on the Soul's Advocate on Instagram, but I'll explain it in more detail later. 3 days later, my pineal gland started vibrating 3 days later, and that's the day I created this channel. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning or 5 in the morning. I think I said this in the video. It's the very first video on this channel, and I forgot what time it was, but that video was a depiction in real time of my pineal gland waking up and started vibrating, and it was like really fast, and you can feel it, you know, and it never stopped since that day. I could hear it right now. It never stops. And so that happened, and then I'm playing with my hair. My hair feels so rough, like it feels like really dry dreadlocks. It literally felt like wool, like steel wool, like Brillo pads. That's how it felt. That's also in the Bible. Hair of wool, skin of brass. My skin looked like brass. My skin looked like me here, but it was more brassy, right? And my face was a little younger. I looked around 25 to 27, or 30. And I realized that 30 is very significant to the other side. When everybody leaves here and go back home, we're all just 30 or in our 30s. So I felt my hair and everything was just so solid. And in that moment, I realized what Darius said was so true. The floor was so solid. The floor was just hard, like it's made out, like the concrete is made out of iron. And my hair felt like really thick steel wool. It was just dry and thick, and you know, and there was stones and sticks and dirt, like dirt falling on my shoulder, falling on the ground, you know, falling on the ground, and my face is dirty and I look dingy. And what I saw in the mirror initially before I touched my hair was me looking like this. I'm gonna try to do a very good reenactment, okay? It was like this. And I look in the mirror like this, and I'm playing with my hair like this. But my mouth was closed, and I was like, and right here was a little bit, you know, thicker. Like I look puffy, like I was just born. Like I look, you know, like I had a baby face. And right here looked more puffy than this, and the puffiness came down here. I look swollen, like I was just born. Right here looks swollen like a baby, and that was the real me, my essence that just gave birth. I just came up. I was just awakened, and I will sleep for 1,000 years, or 2,000 years. This is the story of Jesus Christ, God coming down to human form, dying on the cross, the human being body, dying on the cross. Every single person walking around right now has the coiled snake, the coiled serpent, sitting at the base of their spine, okay? And when it's time to wake up, a kundalini, when it's time to wake up, it goes up the 33 vertebrae, and it goes and it dies in here. That's the crucifixion. And then 3 days later, you awaken. Then after that, I'm going to break down the words later, but there's a series of days. I think it's 1,260 days. The Bible says this too. And Neville Goddard talked about this. I think it's 1,260 days. After that, you go through a series of things to break free and come out and become, your full self here and to have the human experience. After that, you're free. You can go home if you want, or you could decide to stay or whatever. You could just have a blissful life here. But they say you have 70. I think Neville died at 69 or 67, something like that. But I believe that your life here, you leave here not a minute before or not a minute later. So whatever my soul decide, I'll go when it's time. But the beauty of it is I'm not afraid to go when the time comes. And now that I have this ability, I can go whenever I choose to, having woken up, right? So when I got back, when it was time to come back to my body, it was nothing but bliss. It was, if I describe it as a fireworks show, but with lightning and thunder, and stars and everything. It was just like thunder, like boom, lights everywhere. Like the lights were flickering like a bulb that's going out like this. And it was like it was like pow pow, and the energy just cracking and popping, and like imagine static energy. It's like imagine a whole lot of static energy like coming and touching my body and shooting out of my body through my soul body, but through this also. And the being is still here, and everything is just like it's just like a crazy show. Look at these bumps right here. You can't see them, right? But it was. I'm gonna put up a video. I'll either use AI to create it, or I'll find something that's similar. But it's like colors and a bunch of stuff happening, right? It was just a magnificent show. It was like the entire universe came to celebrate me waking up. Damn, that's good. That's exactly how it felt. It felt like the entire universe, every single being in the universe, and every single thing, every single tree, every single plant, every single rocks or crystals in the earth, every single thing, it just felt like everything came to applaud me for waking up. That's how it felt. Wow. I never said it like that before. That's exactly how it felt. And I learned much later that, or shortly after that was my energy. That was me. All of that excitement, popping and shocking and lightning and thunder and all that stuff, that was me. That was my energy. It was my frequency. Wow, that just really took me back. It was so beautiful. And then after that, 3 days later, I had another kundalini experience, and I had many more kundalini experience after that, because at this time and up until now, since that day till now, I've been on semen retention. Even before that, so I've been on semen retention for about 2 years and change right now, because it started around, I think, that summer, or that spring, and then up until now, and right now it's March 2026. So whatever the time is, I have no desire for anything sexual. I have no if I'm on Instagram scrolling or doing my work or whatever I do, if I see anything that's enticing to my former self, I don't judge it. I don't bash the person. I don't look at them any kind of way. If I'm accidentally following them from my old self, because I followed a lot of those stuff, even just innocent channels like, women's fitness channel, where they're showing stuff that is just too revealing, I just unfollow it. I don't want to see that. Not because it's tempting, but because I don't care to see that. I just don't have a desire for it, and I don't think of sex. I don't miss sex. I don't want that for myself. You know what I mean? Right now. Not saying it will never happen again, but it has to be on purpose and for a reason. And with someone you love, or someone who loves you, because I love myself. For the first time, I truly love myself, and it's not that it's a competition, but if I'm not, I will only attract the kind of love that I emit, right? And if that's not in front of me, it's just not it. And if it's not it, it wouldn't be in front of me, because I just won't attract it. But it's a beautiful feeling, and it led me to my purpose, which is to become a fisher of men. You know, you like the Bible says, a fisher of men. Um, you bring men back to God by living the way that you're supposed to live here, and everything will be added on to you, right? And you're not supposed to abuse anything. Sure, you can have sex with your wife or your girlfriend, or you could do all these things that makes you happy here. You can eat whatever you want to eat. You could do whatever you want to do here, but don't abuse anything. Enjoy the human experience. God damn it, have some wine if you like wine. Drink whatever you want to drink. I would say just respect the temple and respect the body, because I do think that drinking throws. I heard this somewhere, and I'm not sure if that's real. I'm not gonna say something that's not, that I don't know. But I heard a few people say this before, that alcohol disorient the soul in the body for 4 days or something like that. I don't think anything could touch the soul personally, but the soul absorb things from the physical. This is how the soul learns, right? So all the suffering and stuff that we go through here is for the growth of the soul. So I would imagine that alcohol is a part of that. So I would say, yeah, I'll entertain that thought. It makes sense to me. So for that reason, like I said, if you like wine, you could drink your wine, you could eat your meat, you could do whatever you want to do, because all the extra stuff, like I don't do this and I don't eat meat. I don't eat meat personally, but it's for other reasons than just that. But if you ever find yourself fantasizing or romanticizing the idea of, oh, I'm spiritual and I don't do this and I don't do that, that's just another facet of the ego, trying to identify with something like, y'all ain't up on this, I'm doing this and look at me. That's just another form of the ego. Not that there's anything wrong with the ego, because the ego is it's your collective body of stories. I get it, but even ego can be too much. Just like I just said, everything's on a spectrum. You can have some sex, but not too much. Don't abuse it. Don't abuse the alcohol. Don't abuse the ego. All right? Because those things could trap you here. Attachments. It's all attachments, right? And then with all that stuff that happened, I turned out where I learned how to heal myself. I learned how to heal my body. And then I started healing other people. I also started freeing other souls in the astral, people from my family, people from my background. Anybody I see, are people who just knew me and just saw my light and wanted to come to me because they realized I had this ability now. They come to me and I would heal them and free them, and I'll send them off to have their own, either back to the light or to go and have their own level of success, whatever that may mean for them. But I pretty much free them in the astral and here too. I don't necessarily just sage people away, but I can clear energy, right? And I cleared even beings that was, lingering around my field since I was a child. That is my story, guys. And if you want to know more about this, and I'll make another video of this. I'll make a part 2 to go more in depth into all the things that I talked about here. Let me see if I'm leaving anything out. So yeah, I'll give it a little bit more. So on my pre-incarnation plan, right, when I was planning to come in here, I'll give you a list of things that I planned to do when I came in here. So it was every 8 years. It will be a different level, different course of different traumas and stuff that I needed to learn here, right? Trauma might sound harsh in the physical because trauma is trauma, right? But it's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily a bad thing because the soul uses it, right? I remember going down into my mother's stomach. It was like weeks before she had me. I would go in and, people go in, you go, like I said, the way we leave our body at will, the soul leaves the baby's body also. It's not a baby, it's a soul. And it the same way when the mother's sleeping or not moving around, the soul can leave. And I remember the day when I went to her, she was coming from somewhere with my dad. They went to work. I think my dad went to do. My dad was doing farming, and my mother went with him, or went to see him, or went with him that day. He just took her with him. He was very loving, by the way. You know, like I guess when it was close to having the baby, he wanted her close to him. You know, in case anything happened, because he was like a jack of all trade. You know, he was a man that just like me, the way I am now, I can relate to that. You know, like if I'm gonna be going to work, even if it's just 2 miles away from here, I want to know that my woman is with me. She's pregnant. Anything can happen these days, she gonna stay with me. You know, and he would baby my mom. You know, and because I was the same way with the mother of my children. Like I'm afraid of them falling, and something happened, and I'm there like that, and I'm just afraid of It's just, I think it's just natural for the masculine to want to protect that. So that's just what that is. So he took her with him, and on their way back, I remember I was on a craft of some sort. This part I didn't get from the other side. This is just something I came in and learned through our OBE. So that's another thing. The other side, they don't tell you more than what you want to hear, because this is your life and your plan on what you want to learn. So there's certain things that you can't see. There's certain things that are blocked that you're not supposed to see yet, because that was your request. Don't tell me this yet. I want to learn this, and if you tell me this, I'm not going to learn it because I already knew it. And your life just won't turn out the way how you wanted it to turn out. And coming from what Darius said, the greatest regret you have when you go back is pretty much the stuff that you can't forgive yourself for. And if you come here and quote unquote fail your mission, that's something that you probably wear for a long time, because you'll never be this person again. You'd have to come back in and have different set of obstacles and all that stuff to come back, and anything can happen, right? But you would regret that if you didn't do what you're supposed to do here. So this is what. So for me, I chose an excruciating life path. I'm talking about no love. People tell you they love you, and people told me they love me when I got much older. I never heard the word "I love you" towards me ever as a child. Ever. Not once. Not uno. Not one time. Ever. I don't ever remember being hugged. No, I was never hugged. I didn't start getting hugs until I came to America, and these hugs were in school. It's just a thing that people do here. You have friends in school, and the girls, not girlfriends, but just the girls in your class and in your school, how they greet is they give hugs. And that's when I started getting hugs, and that's when my hugger self got unleashed, because I'm a big old hugger. I'm a big old teddy bear, and if you know me, you would know that I'm a hugger. I'm a FaceTimer. I FaceTime my family. I'd rather do a FaceTime call than a regular call. I love my kids. I can't get enough of them. I hug and kiss them, and I can't get enough of them, and they love that about me, and they are the same way. We're a very hugging, loving family, and that's because of what I went through. And I don't want them to feel that too. And they have their own chapter and their own thing, but I like to think of it as this. I don't want to seem like I'm trying to be too much in control, but a part of me feel like I came here to learn how to be a father and be a father to someone. So I do that with them, because no, I don't think that me trying to shelter them from facing too much trauma is a bad thing, because they did choose me as a dad, and I am this way. So you choosing a dad like that, you had to have known that he's like this. So I'm not gonna change myself, and what I am is a very loving, compassionate father. And I believe in touching and giving warmth and giving love. And you touch your kids a lot. You hug them, make sure they feel that you're there. And my daughter walked past, and randomly she walked past, and she could never walk past me too many times without getting a hug. You just passed me to go to the bathroom, and then they don't get tired of it. I'm just like that with them. We're always hugging, always loving, and I just give my kids so much love. And because I love love, and I love to love, and I love their love back, and it's just a beautiful thing. And I went and I created my family, and I can get all the hugs I want now, and they get to feel all the hugs that they get, and not to have the experience that I had, even though I know I set it up that way. So the fact that they chose me as their dad, I'm sure that they came in to feel love and be loved. Right? Does that make sense? All right, that's all I'm going to share today. Um, what else? There was one other thing I wanted to share. So I decided to come in, and when I went in, I was on a ship. Yeah, I was on a ship, and when it was time to go down to her, she had stopped. I remember when her guides gave her the instruction to sit down, and in human time, her and my dad, she just thought she was tired, or maybe they just bestowed a whiff of tiredness upon her, right? But she felt the need to sit down, and they were at this big corner, this famous corner back home. It's called Horseshoe Corner. It's shaped like a horseshoe. It comes around like this, and on the corner is a barricade, a concrete barricade, and people use it as a bench. And I remember they sat there, and I was supposed to go in now, and I was on this craft, and the door, it opened. There was just like a portal, a way open off the craft, and then shooting down towards her body was these, what looks like these smoke rings, with like a big one here and one here, and each of them got smaller as it goes down. And I explained it before as, you know those cigarette tricks, those smoke tricks, where they make all those circles going out. That's how it looked, big circles like this. And I shoot down through that, and I went inside her. And there's so many things I learned about that. But and then after I saw that event, I came back to my body. Right, and that's an OBE I had here, and this is all after the kundalini. And one day after another, after the kundalini, anybody who had a kundalini experience, you get vivid visions, vivid dreams, and vivid visions. And for me, I guess the fact that I was seasoned already as an OBE traveler, mine was more intense. Mine were pretty much OBEs. And I was taken by this being that would show me things, right? It would just show me things. It would show me things here, show me past lives, show me things that I had to burn off. So what happened afterward was I was supposed to burn off and seal up all of the karmas that I come down here to seal off. Even stuff that happened in the past life, I came to burn off here and go back into time to burn those off and heal those and seal those up. And I was taken to be shown all these. In this period, I learned that my uncle, my mother's younger brother, he and I came in from the same place here. We came from the same place. We came from the same realm, same place. Call it in heaven or on the other side. It's not heaven, on the other side, because heaven is still within here in this construct, right? Or within this plane of existence, this plane here, right? But my uncle and I came from the same place, the same home. We came into this family at the same time, similar period, to have our lifetime runs concurrently. He came in before me, obviously, right? He's my uncle, my older uncle, but we came into this family to do the same, just to do similar things. And for me, it was to come, and the reason why I didn't go into my mother's stomach until the last few weeks is that there are certain things that was going on with her vessel, her body, that my soul didn't want to go in there at that point, because had I adopted some of those things that was coming from her, it would have changed the trajectory of my life and my purpose. So I had to go in and check and see, is she ready? And there's some physical things too. She was suffering a lot of trauma. She was in like a state of depression, and I'm not sure if remember, guys, I'm the soul's advocate here, so I have to speak what's inside, but I also respect other people's free will, and even their free will to practice their own privacy. And I'm not going to speak for my mother, right? Being that I was outside of my body and I could tell what she was thinking, so I'm not going to say that part. But what I can say for me is that I believe that she didn't want the pregnancy. She was in a state where she was afraid. My mother didn't really grow up properly. She didn't grow up at all, like most of us really. She wasn't raised. She didn't get much love either. And by the time she had me, I was her third child, and she had two kids by two different people. Her first child, she was 16. And I'm sure she was just having fun, and then, next thing you know, she's having a baby. So I think she didn't want the child. And my father loved her, and she loved my father. And, she always talked about how he's the only man she ever loved. But I don't think she wanted a child, but there are certain things that was going on with her that had I gone into her at that moment, it would have changed my course of my life. So I didn't go into that point. And then she wasn't the only person. There was two different, there was a split. And I'm going to end on this, and I'll start the next episode explaining that. So there was a split. So she couldn't contain the energy or the frequency of my, the energy that my soul was bringing in. She couldn't take that, right? So I sent a smaller portion to her, and then it was a split, and then the other piece of the other portion of that went into another incarnation, and that person is alive here now, and I met that person too, by the way. So I'll leave it on that, and I'll see you on the next video.